Is China becoming more communist? Xi Jinping is pushing Marxism, and all levels of Chinese society have to follow. Welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and thought, am I really the best communist I can be? Trick question. The great proletarian revolution doesn't need your bourgeois mirrors. But that is the question Chinese leader Xi Jinping is asking. The Chinese Communist Party is the largest communist party in the world, with 90 million members. But every now and then you need a reminder of what got you there, of how incredible communism is. I mean, 100 million people dead in 100 years, that's quite an accomplishment. But today in China, people just don't seem to have the devotion to Marx and communism the way they once did. For example, 97% of Chinese companies are privately owned. China has a third of the world's billionaires. And China's official state-run trade union is set up specifically to make sure workers don't collectively bargain. So it looks like China got a little off the marks. That's why, over the past several years, Xi Jinping has made a push to get everyone excited about communism again, assuming they were in the first place. Okay, there definitely were times when people were a little too excited about communism. Now, I'm not saying that Xi Jinping wants another cultural revolution, but it's hard to be the head of the Communist Party when it seems like most people in China don't really believe in communism anymore. And what better way to get people back on your side than with a big top-down state directive? Xi Jinping has been pushing all levels of Chinese society to study Marxism, or more specifically, socialism with Chinese characteristics. In a speech marking the Chinese Communist Party's 95th anniversary, Xi Jinping said, "History tells us the Chinese people's choice of the Communist Party to lead them toward the civilization's great rejuvenation has been correct, and that the party's path of socialism with Chinese characteristics is also correct." He also said that Marxism must be the basic fundamental guiding principle or the party would lose its soul and direction. I mean, we wouldn't want the officially atheist Communist Party to lose its soul, now would we? And Xi Jinping is leading by example. In 2017, a few days after winning a second term as the General Secretary of the Communist Party, Xi and other top party leaders headed to Shanghai, raising their fists to honor the birthplace of the Chinese Communist Party and its founders. According to Willy Wolop Lam, an adjunct professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, it was a reinstatement of the commitment of the party in this so-called new era of socialism with Chinese characteristics that they would stick to original values of the founding fathers. That means definitely no move away from orthodox Marxism, orthodox Maoism. No taking up of Western values. I mean, other than the fact that communism originally came from the West. A few months later, Xi Jinping made some major changes to the Constitution. First, he added his very own Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era to both the Communist Party's constitution and China's state constitution. Then, he added to the state constitution that the leadership of the Communist Party of China is the defining feature of socialism with Chinese characteristics. This new clause officially gives the Communist Party direct control over the Chinese government. Okay, it definitely already had control over the government, but now it's in the Constitution, which makes it legal. Think of it like China has a government system, but the Chinese Communist Party's own system is a parasite that's latched onto the government and controls it from above. Kind of like the Gua'uld from Stargate. And now that's written into law. And since the Constitution also says the socialist system is the basic system of the People's Republic of China, what that really means is that China is officially a one-party state led by the Chinese Communist Party. And anything else is illegal according to the Constitution. Glad we got that cleared up. Xi Jinping is also putting more pressure on China's 90 million Communist Party members. Besides requiring them to be atheists, Xi also ordered the broad masses of party members, cadres, and especially senior cadres to study well and apply well the Communist Manifesto. State-run media has also recently warned them to stick with Marx and not ghosts and spirits. Resolutely prevent not believing in Marx and Lenin and believing in ghosts and spirits, not believing in the truth and believing in money. Wait, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to believe in money or not? And does that mean money is a superstition like ghosts and spirits? I'm so confused. Anyway, it's not just party members. They haven't forgotten the children either. For China's Gen Xers and millennials, the party is in danger of being written off as just another corrupt old boys club. Which is why the party has spared no effort in trying to make communism cool again. Whether it's a Karl Marx rap, a Karl Marx talk show, or a Karl Marx anime. Yes, absolutely, none of these things are driven by market demand, just like Marx would have wanted. She has also been stressing ideological education in school. She highlighted the guiding position of Marxism in ideological and political classes, saying China's education should serve the people, the party's governance, and the development of socialism with Chinese characteristics. And they start them young. Starting with toddlers, she said China must nurture generation after generation of young people who support Chinese Communist Party rule and China's socialist system. So it's for these reasons you see headlines like these, suggesting that China's thriving liberal democracy was somehow subverted by Xi Jinping. Except, that's not really what's going on. Most of these changes are superficial. Xi Jinping is pushing people to study Marxism-Leninism, but it's not that he actually wants to return to the days of collective farming and killing landlords. Fun times, but those days are over. See, there's a lot more to communism than redistributing wealth. The nature of a communist regime is to control everything in society. Ever since the Communist Party took over in 1949, it has controlled every organization, rewritten history, manipulated the news, monitored all levels of society, stopped people from speaking out, prevented people from believing in God or Buddha, and re-educated or killed people who don't agree. Those things have not actually changed since the economic reforms of the late 1970s. So, China is still communist in pretty much every sense. What about the economy? Sure, China no longer has collectivization, where everyone works and lives on communes. But the state still owns all the land in China. State-run enterprises control all the major industries, and Chinese officials still intervene in the economy all the time. All of these things mean that the state pretty much still controls the means of production. Chinese people are allowed to make money now, but they can only get rich if their company does what the party wants. And that's why, even with all the ideology that Xi Jinping is pushing, China is not actually becoming more communist. If anything, it's just becoming more visibly communist, especially to those of us outside China. But if it's not making China more communist, why is Xi Jinping pushing Marxist ideology anyway? Well, there are a few possibilities. One is that Xi is a true believer in communism, that when he publishes articles on dialectical materialism, he actually means it. Which, I don't know. This guy has the kind of poker face that got him to the top of the Chinese leadership. Who knows what he's really thinking? Maybe it is I heart dialectical materialism. Another possibility is that Xi's push for Marxism is a way to silence his critics. Xi has amassed tremendous personal power. He's the strongest Chinese leader in a generation. But right now, if it looked like he was going to abandon the party and really make himself emperor, or as I like to say, presentator, the party would tear him apart. So by cloaking everything he does to gain power in the language of the party, Xi makes it harder for other party officials to criticize what he's doing. Do you have a problem with dialectical materialism, Li Keqiang? Didn't think so. And a third possibility is that Xi Jinping's push for Marxism is a compromise with hardliners in the party. Let's not forget about the ongoing internal power struggle in the Communist Party, featured in my favorite soap opera, general hostility. Remember that trip to Shanghai I mentioned? Shanghai is more than just where the Chinese Communist Party was founded. It's also the power base of Xi's biggest political rival, Jiang Zemin. Xi wanted to remove presidential term limits so he could stay in power forever, like Skeletor. But it looks like in order to get that through, he had to go to Jiang's home base and publicly reaffirm his faith in the party. In other words, it's Xi Jinping submitting himself to the party, not him taking over the party. Dialectical materialism is the best, because the party says so. We'll have to see how this all plays out, but ultimately, even though it might look like Xi Jinping is pushing communist values, China never really got less communist. It's been communist all along. So, what do you think? Leave your comments below. And before you go, I'm going to answer a question from a fan who supports the show on the crowdfunding website Patreon. Ethan Fredsty asks, what would happen if Xi Jinping pulled a Gorbachev? Well, that's the million-ruble question everyone has been asking since Xi Jinping came to power. At the beginning, some people hoped he would be a great reformer. But I don't think true reform is possible with the Chinese Communist Party in charge. The party saw what happened to the Soviet Union, and they're terrified of that happening in China. In fact, Xi made a speech back in 2013 where he blamed Gorbachev for the fall of the Soviet Union and said that nobody was a real man. Nobody came out to resist. So if Xi Jinping started acting like he was setting himself up to be a Gorbachev and dissolve the party, it's very likely he'd be squashed by the giant party machine. And not the good kind of party machine, like a disco ball or a cotton candy machine. The bad kind, the kind that kills you if you don't comply, like a very bad cotton candy machine. As Forbes writes, and I think it's pretty accurate, Xi isn't so much solidifying one-man rule as he is solidifying one-party rule, with himself at the head of the party. And that's an important distinction to make. Thanks for your question, Ethan. And thanks to everyone else for watching. If you'd like me to answer your question on the show, all you have to do is contribute $1 or more on the crowdfunding website Patreon. You'll also help keep China uncensored. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.